Radio podcast. My name is Sean Patrick Flannery, and I hope you dig the podcast.
Welcome. It is a new episode of the Rubber Radio podcast, and it is Friday the 13th. Whoa.
Yes. Oh.
I mean, I don't really. Do you have a stigma about it? I really don't. To me, it's just a day.
Not really. It's and maybe one of those things where if something fucked up happens, you stub your toe, you're like, well, it's Friday the 13th, right. So unlucky shit happens. But, you just kind of make a tongue in cheek kind of joke.
Yeah, I'm not an overly superstitious guy. Like, I might at times, like when the Astros are doing well in the playoffs, I might okay, I'm not going to change this shirt. I'm going to wear the same Astros shirt tomorrow. But then if they lose, I'm like, okay, it didn't really work. That's about as far as I go. I'm not really, I don't have to have my water cup in the same spot on my desk or things like that. I'm not really, but some people are. Some people really buy into Friday the 13th and they believe it's superstitious. They'll go as far as calling into work. They won't go anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's some people that really buy into it. And to me, it's like, it's just a day.
Triskaidekaphobia and fear of the number 13.
And it has spawned a very popular franchise of films that seems to be in rights hell now, as far as whether there's ever going to be another one. They just seem to be having issues with that as who actually owns the rights to the franchise and whether there'll ever be another film in that series. But I mean, I do think that the success of the Halloween reboot the last 4 or 5 years with its little trilogy has maybe paved the way for some of these other slashers to make comebacks. I know New Line has been highly talking about another Nightmare on Elm Street, and perhaps they'll figure out the rights for Jason Voorhees and they'll reboot Friday the 13th in some way again. I'm sure, just like in the movies, Jason never really died. I'm sure the franchise will be back in some way.
Yeah, you do it like a James Bond kind of thing.
So we'll see. But yeah, man, how are you, Matt? Doing well?
Yeah, it's been a pretty quiet week. Nothing crazy going on. It's been pretty chill. I got no complaints. Everything's cool, man.
Matt is you're wearing this very flashy like Hawaiian style shirt, and it's I don't know. I just took a picture of you wearing it. I'm going to put it on our Instagram for people to see because it's like, what the hell is he fucking wearing?
Yeah, man. Whenever you're just kind of lounging around, sometimes you wear these. You may wear some, a leisure shirt. I guess this is kind of like a leisure shirt. You got some flowers on it. Some rifles. It goes with it could go with the movie. It's like a Hawaiian shirt that Arnold would wear.
Or it feels it feels like something Arnold. What does Arnold have to do with this movie?
He doesn't, but he should. Because he
feels
could.
Like Frank Abagnale, or how do you? Man, his name's so hard to fucking say.
Frank Abagnale.
You would probably wear something like
the
that.
Great Forger. Yeah. You'll never catch me, Tom Hanks, you bastard. In a world, everyone wants to catch him. He'll never catch me. I don't know.
Sure, man. Why not? I think if he was in the role of, I could see him playing more of the role of Tom Hanks played in the movie, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. If they casted Arnold, yeah.
Oh man!
Damn it! He outsmarted me again. What the fuck?
But man, we got an Arnold movie coming up in a few weeks, though. So
we do. And we're definitely going to get to talk about the Governator soon.
The Governator. But yeah, man. So yeah, I've been all right too, man. It's been not just a pretty pedestrian, normal week, I guess. Kids had no school today. What the hell, man? In our district, they had 2 weeks off to go for 8 days to get a 4-day weekend. These kids got it easy, man.
They got it easy, man. It wasn't like us. We had to walk a mile.
I know,
and that
right?
was just to get a mile closer to school.
And we had no calculators, man.
We didn't, dude. We had to tally things up on the desk.
Our fingers and our toes.
Yeah, dude. And then now all these kids have optional homework now. Do your kids have that?
Well, in Cy-Fair, they have almost no homework in in junior high or even elementary.
dude, school wasn't done whenever we were dismissed from school. We had more shit to do when we got home. And if you didn't do it, you got bad grades, and man, now kids, it's, once you're done with school, you're done.
Yeah. It's like, it's not fair.
It's not. They should have the same shitty situations we had to deal with.
That's right. Damn it. But I guess it's okay. I don't know.
I guess, it's like there was this comedy. Well, I wouldn't say comedy sketch. Bill Burr was on Conan one time. He was talking about how dads are now. Now dads are like, he's like, whenever I was growing up, there wasn't all these kids running around saying, "Dad, Dad." He's like, "Oh shit, Dad." Oh my God. It's like, watch what you're doing. He's like, and so Conan's like, why are you so upset that these kids are having it better now? And he's like, I remember whenever I was a kid, my brother wouldn't eat his dinner. My dad took a glass of milk and threw it in his face. Just threw milk at his face. Right? But so it's I guess it's in our nature just to mess with the younger generation, that they've got it a little bit easier.
That's true.
You can find so much stuff. Maybe we are a little bit jealous and we didn't have it that way, and it's too little, too late. Maybe we're just like, man, you know what? It was character building. You're missing out on character building.
That's right.
Should figure out how to do, math, with just a sheet of grid paper, and that's
right. That's right. It builds. I like that. It builds character. And so and that's another thing, leading into getting the show going. We had to get up and put in a VHS tape or a DVD or change the channel. Now, man, everything is streaming. It's like, I'm still a physical guy. I still have a lot of Blu-rays. I still will put Blu-rays in that aren't streaming. Sometimes just for pure quality too, because I do think it plays better and looks better straight off the Blu-ray than it does sometimes off the streaming. I've still been exploring Tubi a lot the last couple of weeks, and I think it's a great free app. And I've been watching. There's no way to say this without sounding like I'm a total pervert, but I've been watching a lot of anime on there, and there's a show I've been watching called Aika, and it's pure fan service anime, which is actually not. It's not a terrible story. I mean, she's like she's hired to help these people investigate. The world is all kind of covered, like 90% of its ocean in the future. But what I can say is, it's like, when I say it's fan service, it's mega amounts. I mean, there's more panties in this show than you'll see in any show. I mean, just the way the camera angles are and the shots. I'm like, oh, let's see how many panties and butts we can show. And there's tons of them. And there's the occasional nudity, but it's not all sexual. It's mostly done for play and laughs or part of the story. And yes, I know that sounds cliche. Oh, it's part of the story. It actually really is most of the time. Yeah. And I've been watching that on Tubi, and it's like 7 episodes, and there was like there's a 3-episode prequel, and I don't know, I've actually enjoyed it, and yeah, maybe it's a little perverted to watch that stuff, but you know what? God dang it, I'm a single man. I can watch those kind of things. If
that's
I
right,
want,
dude.
And I've been enjoying watching that on Tubi, man, and I like it, and I watched some of that, and I watched what was I watching the other day? Oh, I rewatched Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I'm having a hard time understanding the hatred for that film, man. I just don't get it. I think it's one of those legacy sequels that people's expectations were, oh, this is going to be Raiders of the Lost Ark Last Crusade level. And it's just simply not. But it's not a bad movie. I kind of enjoy it, really. I mean, the CGI ants are kind of like, okay, because everything was practical back in the early day. And the scene where Mutt swings with the monkeys, I hear people complain about that, but the scene lasts like 3 minutes. It's hardly even a major part of the film, It's fine. I was watching the other day, and I like it, man. maybe the aliens thing is a little stranger than some of the other stuff, but how's it any stranger than an Ark of the Covenant that dissolves people into nothingness? I mean, or a guy who can rip people's hearts out. That's what blows my mind when I hear people complain about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Why is Alien so bizarre compared to what happened in the other Indiana Jones films? It's like, it's cool,
No, yeah. I don't think I had an issue with it. It's definitely different than going the more like historical route.
Right.
But it's, I watched an Indiana Jones movie this week. It was Raiders of the Lost Ark because my youngest two haven't seen an Indiana Jones movie. And I was like, they've got to see all the Nazis' faces melting off.
Well, I watched that one also. I watched that one also this week, but I just specifically was thinking about Crystal Skull because of the hate it gets.
It gets a lot of hate, yeah.
Yeah.
Who directed? Did Spielberg direct it?
Spielberg directed it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I think I've watched it in the past couple months. I want to say, but I don't have any issues with it. I don't even have any issues with Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, he's fine. He does his part in the role. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand the and it seems like there's already this negativeness towards Dial of Destiny before it even comes out because people are trying to say, well, the last one wasn't what we wanted to be. It's like, give it a chance. I mean,
yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to Dial of Destiny. I can't wait. So yeah, I mean, I watched that this week, man. I really like it, man. I think it's fun. I enjoy it. Don't have any real hatred towards it, man. It is what it is. It's just a movie, man, and I like it.
It's theater, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really checked out this past week. I just don't feel like I watched a whole lot of other things. I was just kind of, like I said, cruising that anime. Watched some old. Have you ever watched the original G.I. Joe miniseries, like the Introducer show? It's on Tubi also, like the first 5 episodes. And it's weird, man, because like Cobra Commander, instead of talking with like the Megatron like high pitched voice, he talks with he talks like a snake. He hisses and stuff in those first few episodes. It's weird.
Oh wow!
And I forgot he did that, and I was watching some of those. But those early episodes are actually pretty well written, and then the show kind of becomes like any of those toy-based shows, just kind of become silly and the stories aren't as good as they go. Because, a lot of those cartoons from the 80s, we watch them out of pure nostalgic, like Transformers I love and Mask and G.I. Joe, but they're not as good as people really think they are. Some of those stories are pretty bad. They're pretty poorly animated at times. I think Transformers is arguably the best. And I think G.I. Joe, sure. I think G.I. Joe's pretty good, but like, go watch some of those early He-Mans. They're pretty horrible. There's some really bad stories in there, but they were designed to sell toys. That's what they made them for. Those IPs were not made to do anything but get your mom and dad to take you to the toy store and buy a He-Man figure or a G.I. Joe figure. And it worked. High and wide, remarkably well.
Big time, enough to pay for a movie.
Yeah, obviously, go watch The Toys That Made Us. There's an episode for all 3 of those products. He-Man, G.I. Joe, and Transformers showed the success they had with based on cartoons to sell them. So it worked to that extent. But man, I'm going to keep exploring the Tubi app and keep self-promoting it to people, man. If you're just looking for a great app that's free and you're tired of all the junk on Netflix and paying for it, man, download Tubi. There's a lot of great free shit on it, man. Mm-hmm. I'm thoroughly enjoying that app so far. I mean, if you're a Godzilla fan, there's a lot of Godzilla movies on there. Our other co-host Long, he would love it, man. Tons of Godzilla movies on that app. So,
I may have to check it out because it's like I don't have a whole lot of Godzilla films at my disposal. I borrowed them from Long and watched them. But they've got that Shin Ultraman movie out, and I was like, it makes me feel nostalgic for the Godzilla movies where they would sing to Godzilla, and there was like
I think HBO Max still has I think HBO Max still has a lot of Godzilla movies on it too, but the Tubi app has a lot as well.
I watched. I always do this. I always watch Rocky IV at some point during the year. And I was looking for some inspiration to work out, and I was like, yes, this is it.
Did you ever watch that director's cut they put out last year?
Yeah, but it don't have much to it.
That's what I heard. I heard I read that they touted as this big time director's cut and everything, and they said like the edits and changes are so minor unless you really know the film real well, you don't even notice them.
Yeah, that's I think I found a, little snippet of where they have like the director's cut edits, and whenever around the time it came out, and it didn't seem like it was much added to the story.
Yeah.
So I've got Rocky 4, so
I think
it
part of
didn't
the
matter.
problem with it too is it was designed to come out when Creed 2 came out. I mean, Stallone had started talking about working on the director's cut of Rocky 4, and I think it was
Mhm.
supposed to kind of be a promotional tie-in to go with Creed 2 and Drago's son, all that. So when it didn't come out on time and the director's cut got delayed, I think it lost its steam and no one really cared. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Because it's you're not gonna unless you're a genre fan, you'll be interested
Right.
in that kind of stuff. But it's really gonna push
Well,
if you could get it out the same time as Creed 2.
And not only get it out, but they put it out for you to buy. It went digital on Voodoo accounts and Amazon and all that. And people, if you're going to release a director's cut for a movie that's 30 years old, put it out for free. Throw it on HBO Max, just like they did with Justice League Snyder's cut.
Extra
Put it out there
$5 for bonus feature.
People put it out there for people to watch. Don't ask people to pay for a movie that they've already seen 100 times in the last 30 years. So,
yeah. No, man. That and there's still got this $5 deal going on, plus a Friday the 13th deal for $13.99. So 8 movies, $13.99 if you're interested in owning the whole Friday the 13th saga. But one of the movies they had on there was a 2022 movie that I did not get to see. And that's the Spirit Halloween movie. And I was interested.
Really,
it looks, yeah. Now it's very much it's almost like a kind of like if you saw the Fear Street, the R.L. Stine Fear Street movie that came out. It's kind of geared towards teens, like that young teenager age kid. I didn't enjoy it too much versus like if you were to watch like another horror film, just Freddy or a Jason film, it's very different, very juvenile, very teen. Not bad for the $5. I'm probably not going to watch it.
I don't know. You sound like you have a lot of regret in your voice. Like, I spent $5 in this trash.
Yeah, it's not trash. It's just. I was hoping to at least get like a kind of like a Trick or Treat kind of movie. I don't know if you've ever seen Trick or Treat, where Trick or Treat's not the best horror movie out there, but it's like one of those guilty pleasure ones. There's elements in it where you're like, man, you know what? I may watch that again. This one, I felt like I didn't get that. There is some regret there, but it's $5. So not too bad. To rent, it was like $3.99. So I was like, why not?
Well, yeah, they do that sometimes.
Yeah. There's other stuff on there too, and I didn't download it and watch it, but I wanted to watch Devotion. I feel like we get a lot of war movies, but they're always the Korean. I mean, they're always the Vietnam War, World War II, World War One, and we never get one or even Revolutionary War. We never get like the Korean War. In fact, I don't believe there's been a Korean War movie made since like the late 1950s or 1960s.
Seems like there's got to have been something by then.
I maybe I didn't do enough looking into it, but last one I saw, I think it was like in black and white. But Devotion, I don't know if you've seen the.
I saw some about it, but to me, it looked like one of those Bible thumper type movies.
Yeah, it looks like it's not so much focused on the Korean War.
Yeah.
It's focused on one or two men's journey, and if it was like a wider scope, I'd be more apt to just buy it. But they don't even have it for theater at home or to rent. It's only to buy, and I can't own something like that for $20. That
right?
Yeah, I don't hear. There's not a whole lot of buzz going on about it. It's rated well, but I think I'm gonna wait to rent it.
We're fixing to talk a Spielberg film today, and I really want to see his new movie, The Fabelmans. But at the same time, I'm not going to pay $20 to rent it or $25 to own it until after I've watched it. So I'm hoping The Fabelmans goes for cheaper rent soon. And because I do want to see that. And But
Yeah. Other than that, I played a bunch of my oldest. He was like, "Hey, you haven't played Battlefront 2 in a while," and you know what? I'm like, yeah, let's play a stormtrooper and shoot some stuff up. Why not?
yeah. Oh, well, mine get mad at me if I shoot them and beat them. Well, you're not supposed to do that. I'm like, what do you mean not supposed to destroy you?
Yeah.
Like I'm supposed to let them win? I was like, that's not how this works.
Heck no.
I've been wielding the power of the Force and shooting Star Wars shit since you weren't even a thought in my mind. So
that's right.
Don't mess with me when it comes with Star Wars games.
Since before you were the size of a womp rat, baby.
That's right. You weren't even a drop in my balls yet. Well, on that note, let's talk some news, man. I know this is a movie that you're looking forward to more than me because I'll probably see it. I don't know if I'll see it in theaters, but I will see it. They announced that Dungeons and Dragons is going to open up the South by Southwest Film Festival. And South by Southwest is known for doing this. They show some art house films and things like that, but they're known for sometimes taking a pop culture film and having it open the festival like they did a few years ago with Ready Player One. Another Spielberg film. Spielberg keeps popping up in today's episode. And Ready Player One opened up, South by Southwest and premiered there a few years ago, and it was a huge success. It got word of mouth out for the movie, and so I think they're doing that, hoping that it gets word of mouth out for Dungeons and Dragons as well. And if people don't know, South by Southwest is a huge music and art festival. It takes place right here in Texas in Austin. I've never been to it. I've drove through it. I've been downtown Austin before when it's going on and drove through masses of people. In fact, 2 years ago, I drove by the theater where they have the movies at, and they were premiering the Woody Harrelson, Kevin Costner, Bonnie and Clyde movie, which I still haven't seen. I need to watch that because I love Costner.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't watched it yet. It's on Netflix. I've tried like twice to watch it, and I've never been able to sit down and completely watch it. And so it was on the marquee, and it was cool, and there were people standing in line waiting to get in. And I imagine that Costner and Harrelson were probably there somewhere at the premiere of the movie. So that's kind of my little South by Southwest claim. And but I am familiar with what it is. Being a Texan, it's a big deal here, man. It's a huge festival, and it's growing bigger every year. So pretty cool they're going to premiere Dungeons & Dragons there, huh?
No, yeah. I'm very much excited to watch that movie. I think it's going to be absolutely going to be better than the first one.
Oh yeah, the first one came out with
Marlon Wayans. Yeah, definitely some wasted potential there.
Yeah,
but Jeremy Irons was good in the movie. I think he, but people like that, actors like that, they always shine through.
Right, they do their thing. I'll see it. I mean, it should be good. And apparently, there's already plans for a television show in the works too to spin off from it. I can't remember if it's Amazon or who's going to have it, but they are planning a Dungeons and Dragons television show as well. So
nice.
But this is a ripe IP that's been around for many years, and it's people are still playing the game. In fact, COVID has allowed Dungeons and Dragons games to make a comeback. People doing it over Zoom calls and things like that, playing games.
Oh yeah.
The Stranger Things, the success of that show, which has Dungeons and Dragons in it, and it had an animated series back in the day. It's had action figures, so it's definitely a property that has its following, and it deserves to have a good film made. So hopefully the Chris Pine film that's coming out is that answer, and we shall see here in a couple months when it hits. Before that movie comes out, though, we have the beginning of Phase 5 in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. And it got its final trailer this week. And this is the first trailer that I saw that really has me more excited for the film. We get to definitely see a better look at what Kang is up to in this trailer. Some interesting special effects shots. Multiple Scott Langs in the trailer, which makes you wonder how this deals with the multiverse and the timelines. And my one thought with this trailer was, I hope they fucking kill Ant-Man and just leave Kang standing over his dead body, and that's how the movie ends. And you're like, holy shit, what's going to happen next? I mean, is that wrong for me to think that? Because dude, the Marvel Universe Phase 4 sucked. Let's just be honest. Spider-Man No Way Home was great. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But Doctor Strange was okay.
Solid.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Thor sucked. Black Panther was good, but it really had nothing to do. The problem with Black Panther is it's a beautiful tribute to Chadwick Boseman, but that's all it was. It didn't really do anything to help Phase 4 other than introduce Namor. So it's time to move this shit forward. And what better way to move it forward than Kang to come in and fuck shit up, and say, this is what's up. And that's what I hope they do. I mean, I want it to end. Yeah, the MODOK appearance. I want this to end on a somber note. It's like, here I am. I'm badder than Thanos. I killed this motherfucker. Let's roll. And Jonathan Majors, I think, is going to kill it as Kang. I really do. He looks awesome. So yeah, man, let's go. Let's bring it on Phase 5. And then we got Guardians coming out, then the Marvels later this year. So we'll see where they go with it.
Yeah, there's time to come back from the not so hot movies that have come out.
And then and of course Loki season 2 is coming out, which we know Kang was introduced in Loki season 1, and man, I didn't realize that. Man, Ki-Hye Kwan, who of course played Short Round in Indiana Jones, is in Loki season 2. Man, I texted you along the other day, man. I'm really enjoying his comeback, man, from Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's just because his smile is contagious, his enthusiasm is contagious, and you can't help, if you grew up watching Indiana Jones, you can't help but be really enjoying this, man.
Yeah, it's
awesome to see his comeback and winning the awards for the movie, and he's just in such awe of where he's come from and how it's turning out for him, and he seems like celebrities sometimes come across as, they're fake as fuck, right? But he comes across as like really humbled and really legitimately appreciating what's going on in his life, and it's so much fun to watch.
And I think a lot of other people notice it too. I mean, you see, whenever he was accepting his award, the other celebrities are just super happy for him. But it's I don't know where he's been. This past couple decades. Well, he did Temple of Doom, and then he did Encino Man.
Yeah, but he also some of that. I'll be honest, don't let his speech completely fool you that he didn't know if he'd ever be successful again. He did choose the route he chose. He chose to work in the background of Hollywood and raise a family, things like that. So some of those were his choices. And then he started trying to get back in the business a few years ago. He did a couple of small roles I saw and a couple of some voice work and stuff, but no real success until the Daniels gave him a chance in this movie. And it's fantastic. And I hope he goes out and gets the fucking Oscar too, man. And same with Michelle Yeoh. I think the movie, it's going to be it looks like maybe a long shot for her to win Best Picture, but hopefully it can take home some awards because it's deservingly so. It's a fantastic film.
Oh yeah.
And, but I'm enjoying his comeback. And we're going to stick with Indiana Jones news just a little bit, man. Hasbro has the rights, to the Indiana Jones figures, and and this is something I want to bring into the show a little bit more. We used to talk about toys and things that would tie into the movies, and not necessarily today's movie, but talk about collecting sometimes, and and Indiana Jones has never been highly successful in the collector's market. They had figures back in the 80s, which are now very hard to find because some of them are even rarer than Star Wars figures because there was only a few made and they didn't do real successful. Temple of Doom had a few figures, but again, not super successful. Then in 2008, when Kingdom of Crystal Skull came out, they had Indiana Jones figures on the shelves again. A little more success this time, but even still not super successful. And some of those, for being figures only 14 years old, are starting to be worth some money because they weren't bought. People let them sit on the shelf. So Hasbro's doing it again, this time with Black Series style figures with Indiana Jones. And they had a stream this week where they announced the first couple of waves that are coming out. And they've got some Target exclusives and a Walmart exclusive Indiana Jones. And they're really highly detailed sculpted 6-inch figures. And they're going to do a retro line too, based on the old figures. And so it's an exciting time for Indiana Jones fans. They are doing a club. And there's people that don't know this, that the club at the beginning of Temple of Doom is called Club Obi-Wan. And so they're doing a Target exclusive Indiana Jones in his suit from Club Obi-Wan. And I pre-ordered that figure already because I was like, because if you know anything about Target, you never find the exclusives on the shelf ever. They never make it to the shelf because the employees or whoever, the scalpers, buy them up first. So I pre-ordered it hoping that they fill my pre-order on that figure. But be excited, man. If you're a collector, Indiana Jones figures are going to start hitting the shelves here around April is the planned date for the release. So Hasbro making a comeback with the Indiana Jones figures. I kind of forgot this movie was being made, man. They're making a Borderlands movie, and it's directed by Eli Roth.
I could have sworn they had started this a while back.
It's in post-production, but there's some reshoots coming up. The problem is Eli Roth has moved on to another project, but his buddy Tim Miller is going to step in and do the reshoots for him. This is not a situation like with Rogue One where they had fired not fired, but they asked Gareth Edwards to step aside, and Tony Gilroy came in and finished the film. This is more a mutual thing. Eli just like, I can't do it. Tim, can you do it? And Tim Miller, of course, directed the first Deadpool film. But Eli Roth apparently is going to be trying to zoom in and work with him on the reshoot. So this is more of a mutual thing. I don't know if this movie's coming out this year. I would imagine maybe it's coming out this year if it's almost done shooting. But I kind of forgot about this movie. And Borderlands is a super popular video game series. Has a lot of fans. I played a little bit of the first game. I'm not as drawn into it as everyone else, but I can see the appeal of it, you know? It's fun. You know, to me, I found it really hard. And I kept getting pissed off at it. I'm like, fuck this game. You know?
Yeah, Frank tried to get me to borrow his Xbox 360 copy to play on my Xbox One at the time. And I don't know. I couldn't get into it as much.
See, he did the same thing. He tried to get me into it back in the day, and I couldn't get into it. And one day on a PlayStation sale, they had it for like $9. I was like, you know what? I'll buy it and try it. And I played it some.
Yeah.
It's also really ultra violent and lots of bad language and stuff. So it's not something I can always play with the little ones in the room. You know, but yeah. So the Borderlands movie is still on the way. And last bit of news I have, man. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is starting to go into full pre-production. Super excited about this movie, as I love the series. And they just cast William H. Macy in a part. And people know who William H. Macy is from Fargo. He's been around for years, good character actor. So looking forward to this movie, man. I really like the trilogy they did with Rise and War and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And this is going to continue that story only several years later. And if anybody knows how the last trilogy ended, this is spoilers because, I mean, the movie's been out for years. And, you know, I think we're past spoilers. But, you know, of course, Caesar dies at the end of it, and he leaves his son and his family. But imagine that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is going to be about his son. I mean, I think that's the route they're going to go. And
yeah.
Big fan of that series. Going back to the 1960s movies and even the new ones, I love that series. So looking forward to it. And,
yeah, no, all the newer films have been really good. Bring on another. Why not?
Yeah, we've done a couple of the originals on the show. We've done Rise of the Planet of the Apes on the show, and you know, I think as it gets closer to the new one coming out, I'm sure we'll do more. I'd like to do some more of the 1960s ones on the shows too.
So
we'll have to get to it.
Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, that would be. Well, no, that's the last one we did. So it's Escape from Planet of the Apes is next. So,
yep, is that the time travel one?
Where they go where they go back to when the Earth and humans, So
yeah,
but that'll be next. So you know. All right. Well, I guess that brings us to the featured film of the week. A movie that I didn't realize was 20 years old.
Oh wow!
Last year, and because I've only seen this a couple of times. I want to say I saw this in theaters. I'm pretty sure I did. And then I probably watched it one other time afterwards. And directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks and Christopher Walken. And based on a true story. That's a very interesting true story. And that is it is Catch Me If You Can from 2002. And Matt, I'm going to let you summarize 2 weeks in a row, only because I'm going to run real quick and grab a bottle of water while you summarize.
Go for it, man. Got to hydrate. So we have this story about Frank Abagnale Jr., boy who learns at an early age how to con people with some influence from his dad. And it paints a home life that, his mom and his dad met during the war, World War II, presumptively. And, his dad kind of got into some trouble with the IRS, and, they have to move away from their nice home, and they're struggling a little bit. And, Frank Abagnale Jr. starts writing, bad checks, and then starts, obtaining a guise as a pilot for Pan Am, and making fake payroll checks with Pan Am, and just starts making checks. He gets better and better at his craft, and the FBI is putting him in the spotlight, and they're led by Tom Hanks, but it's Attaway or Haggerty or man, I can't remember the his character's last name. But
no,
yeah, it's eluding me. But anyways, Tom Hanks, he's on his heels and
Hanratty.
he's trying to Hanratty. He's on his heels and eventually leads him to France, where Leo's character Frank Abagnale is caught and brought back home, where the FBI eventually uses him to help catch other criminals that are using bank fraud and check fraud, and
even to this day.
Even to this day,
yeah.
And he's an interesting character. Obviously, the movie, exaggerates a little bit, like to your point last week. But it's a great story. Steven Spielberg bought the rights as soon as this book hit the market. Mm-hmm. As soon as the real Frank Abagnale, published the book, Steven Spielberg bought the rights.
Well, yeah, as early as like 1982, 81. Yeah, he was trying to make the movie. Yeah.
Oh,
and he didn't. And then he got so busy that he wasn't going to direct it, but it kind of came back around to him. He ended up directing it. Let's talk about the truthiness of this a little bit before we get too much of the film. When this came out, Frank, the real Frank, helped consult in the film, and
yes,
and he wanted it to be as authentic as possible, regardless of some changes. Like Hanratty is a mix of a couple of detectives. That character is actually made up for the film. But he said, according to him at the time, most of this stuff was really how it played out. He said the only changes were for dramatic purposes. He said, I would not have called the detective on Christmas Eve. He goes, I'm not stupid. Why would I want him to know where I am? So that was added for the film. But in the 20 years since, Frank has written a couple of other books, along with public records and stuff, that have started to debunk a lot of the things he did. And he's even kind of grinned at it. Now, he did write these checks. He did forge. He did all that really happened.
Oh, yeah.
But
using making the stuff from the model planes, he did that.
Yeah. But it's kind of been debunked that he wasn't really a Pan Am flight attendant for 6 years. He might have done it for maybe a couple of months, but it didn't quite go as long as he made it out to be.
Basically, he was trying to cash these bigger checks, and he figured he's 16 years old, and even though he's passing as an older person, because you got to know, he's 175 pounds at this point and 6'5". So he's very believable as an adult. He figured they would cash a check from a pilot versus, a snotty little kid. And that's how it started. Yeah.
Public records have gone on to show that he never worked in a hospital, even though he claimed he did. So some of the things were he exaggerated his own stories. Because, you think about it, in the 60s, he probably could do that and get away with it.
Oh, yeah.
Public record. It's like they said in the movie. He could write a check in New York for a bank in San Francisco, and it took him 3 weeks to figure out the check was fraud. Where now, man, it's instant. They're going to know if you're fake.
Oh, yeah.
So interesting time that this movie, that Frank chose to do these things, and so there is some embellishment based on in the film, but as most true stories are, but it still doesn't make for a super exciting, interesting story. Spielberg shoots this film a little bit different than some of his other movies, almost documentary-like at times. The way he shoots this, a lot of low lighting. I was reading too, a lot of that was the cinematographer's choices, not so much Spielberg choices. That they chose to go with wet-looking streets and more darker lighting to give it more of a documentary type feel. But it works for the film, and the cast is excellent. I mean, DiCaprio has been making just hella good films for 20 years now. He's a really good actor, and he's good in this.
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks came into this role at the last minute because Spielberg didn't want to ask him because he thought he wouldn't take on a supporting role. And Hanks was like, "No, a good story is a good story. I want to do this movie." And he had just a few days to prep for it, and he came up with the accent. And he met with the real detective who had the accent, and Hanks does a hell of a good job too. I mean, as he always does in everything he does. And And I think that's what I really like about this movie is it's two of our best actors of the last 2 decades going at it with each other. And it makes for a good film.
It really does. And, it's funny that the closest thing to the real story is the pilot thing. He was actually arrested in Georgia under suspicion, but he was able to convince the police that he was not, Frank Abagnale. He actually befriended enough pilots and airport personnel to where they vouched for him that he was not this person. And so he did have that going on for him.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing some of the stuff he was able to do. He claims that he would have been able to steal more than the $5 million. But I don't think so. With today's technology, he claims he could have spent he could have stolen like 25 times more than that.
Right.
But yeah, just amazing how he would obtain the tools and stuff to actually make these checks, look as real as possible. And he just kept getting better and better. He did try and get married, but whenever he told the girl his true story, it didn't go over very well. So that that ended. It wasn't exactly how it happened in the movie.
Right.
It's a mix, just like The Detective. It's about like 3 different women. That he kind of had his eye on.
Young Amy Adams in this, almost didn't recognize her.
Yeah. And especially with the braces. You've also got Elizabeth Banks in this movie. She's the teller.
Bank teller, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have I just know her as Grey's Anatomy. You have the Grey from Dr. Grey from Grey's Anatomy in the movie too, and Garner.
Jennifer Garner, who came on set for one day to film her scenes. Yeah. Yeah.
And she's got the hooker scene.
Because she was busy. I think at the time, Alias was a thing. Was it a thing back in 2002? So I think she came to set for one day, took a break from Alias to film her scene. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, the scene on the whenever he's trying to get the James Bond suit. Yes.
They're like, okay, Mr. Fleming. And I'm like, oh, that's obvious. He's trying to spoof Ian Fleming.
And it's an actual remake of the actual suit. And what's cool is he really did. He said he watched movies to study how these people acted. He was a big movie guy, and he had a photographic memory. He could remember everything. They said, even to this day, he's still like that. It's kind of interesting that DiCaprio, now these movies are almost 20 years apart. He had no idea back in 2002 that he was going to be playing Jordan Belfort years later. He plays these characters that are criminals, essentially. Frank Abagnale, then in Jordan Belfort. And Jordan Belfort did the same thing, weaseled people out of millions of dollars in stocks and bonds, and they went to jail too. And then they both get out of jail, even these real life characters, and they still make millions. Frank Abagnale still makes millions as a consultant for the FBI and other banks and things that hire him to make sure their checks are secured. He makes millions of dollars every year. Jordan Belfort now makes millions of dollars every year as a public speaker and a motivational speaker that universities and people hire him and stock companies of what not to do or what to do. That's crazy. These guys go to jail for stealing millions of dollars. They always serve, I think, Frank only served a couple of years and he got out.
Yeah.
I think the movie made it sound like a shorter time. I think I read he did serve about 2.5 years. And Jordan Belfort only served like 3 years out of his 20-year sentence, and he got out. So, man, you just go steal a bunch of fucking money, you get out of jail.
If you're really good at it.
Yeah, you're really good at it. Then still get rich.
Yeah. Man. Jeez. Yeah. It's such a cool story. And I've always liked this movie. It's a movie that if I see that it's on, I'm going to watch it. Yeah. It's just you got a lot of great rapport, between Leo and Hanks, and one of the things that was true that he plays in there that wasn't it's a play on the truth, and they really didn't touch on it much, is that he did the last thing job that he kind of falsified was a professor for a university, and he got the job, and but they kind of allude to it in the beginning whenever he impersonates a school teacher.
Right.
So that's how they kind of get away with that. He did become a assistant attorney general, prosecutor in the assistant attorney general's office. But he wasn't there for long because he said he was from Harvard. And then there was another prosecutor there that was actually a Harvard alumni that was kind of pressing him on these hard questions. And he knew he just couldn't keep it up. So he left and was able to falsify some more documents to make it look like he had the credentials to be a professor. So, yeah, he was able to falsify a lot of documents, man. Biggest white collar crime of his time, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Spielberg originally wanted Johnny Depp for this movie, but Depp was unable to do it. And it's another one of those films that, like, DiCaprio is so good at this that I don't think I'd want to see anyone else in the role. And people, James Gandolfini was originally going to play Carl, but due to scheduling issues and stuff, he had to, with The Sopranos, I think it was with The Sopranos, had to back off. And because this movie got delayed because DiCaprio had to finish reshoots on Gangs of New York. So Catch Me If You Can got pushed back a little bit, which caused Gandolfini have to go back to The Sopranos, which allowed for them to hire Tom Hanks in this role. And then we didn't even talk about Christopher Walken, who plays his father. Now there is some embellishment in that too. They made it, and this I could see why they did this for dramatic purposes, to give Frank's character inspiration. And he gets it from his father, but the real Frank Sr. was not a con artist like his son. He was just pretty much a straight normal guy who went to work every day and tried to raise his family.
He did get in trouble with the IRS, and he did end up losing his business and becoming a postal worker, working for the government, but not as depicted in the movie where his, dad's like, oh, well, he hardly talked to his dad. He ran away from home.
Right. Yeah, he didn't have quite the relationship he had with his parents that they made the movie appear. And in fact, he really did have very little to do with his mother because he was pretty upset with her that she cheated on his dad and left him. And so he wasn't real happy about that. He had a little bit better relationship with his father, but not quite the relationship he had in the movie, Apparently he did write letters to his dad, but he's not sure if his dad ever got him or wrote back, So, he did a try. But Walken is good in the movie too. He's one of those actors that anytime he's on screen, he's going to bring 100% and do his job too. And I always, Walken's a guy. I kind of like Walken in these kind of toned down parts, if that makes sense. We're used to him playing kind of not so much a villain, but a pretty powerful alpha character in most of the movies he's in. And I kind of like to see Christopher Walken play sometimes these lower key parts because he's really good at them. Yeah, no,
he's definitely got a range that he doesn't show a whole lot. And, we know him, I only know him from, I know him mainly from like Sleepy Hollow and,
Pulp Fiction, True Romance.
Pulp Fiction, True Romance, So it's like that's the movies I think about when you say, Christopher Walken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But some other interesting fact, Tom Hanks, this was Tom Hanks in his prime. He was on a roll, like seventh straight movie that made $100 million at the box office. Spielberg, known for working with John Williams, another John Williams score in this movie, as he's done many times. And did you see that John Williams this week announced he's not retiring? He's like, man,
really?
He said at first he said Indiana Jones was going to be his last film, but now he's like, thinking, I'm not sure if I want to retire. He's saying he didn't confirm he's doing any other projects, but he's like, he's not officially retiring. He says, I'm still having too much fun at almost 90 years old.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, man. Keep on doing it.
Definitely one of our greats of all time. Of course, Martin Sheen appears in this movie too. Him and Leo worked together on The Departed a couple years later. One of my favorite movies. So a lot of good actors in this movie. One of our best directors of all time directing it. It's amazing to think that Spielberg he loved the project, but he really didn't want to direct it because he wasn't sure if he could do it justice. And even though he loved the book for years, and he was really trying to get someone else to direct it, and Gore Verbinski almost directed it, but then he had to back out, and so finally Spielberg was like, you know what, I'll direct the movie.
Wow.
And I'm glad he did, because but it doesn't feel like a typical Spielberg film. I don't know. That's why I kept going back to it as I'm watching this. It's like it's Spielberg, but it's not like the Spielberg that.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain that. You have to be a hardcore Spielberg fan to understand what that mean by that.
It's underrated Spielberg.
Yes, maybe that's a good way to put it.
It's not his best movie, but it's definitely a Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
I think it's a movie worth watching. It's a movie worth owning in your collection, and it's a movie you probably watch a couple times per year.
Yeah,
he did a solid job with it.
Oh, he did.
I didn't have an issue with it.
No, it starts off maybe a little slow at the beginning, but once you establish Frank and his family life and the characters, and once he leaves home and starts doing his thing, the movie just snaps and it flows.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the only beef I have with those first maybe 20 minutes. It's a little clunky, and I'm looking at like, man, this movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and the first half hour makes it feel long. I feel like maybe there could have been some stuff cut back a little bit on that and just focused on Frank's story. Because once you get past that first half hour, the movie's great. So I think that's probably my only beef with it. Takes a bit to get going, but certainly a very entertaining film, well acted, well directed, a very cool story. Whether it's true or not, excuse me, that's a whole nother thing. But you can enjoy it for what it is, and it's funny to watch back. My biggest thing is like, man, Leo hasn't changed much. He looks almost the same 20 years later. That guy seems ageless. Really does. He's just he really has become one of our great actors. And it's funny because you'll hear people, you'll have conversations with people and they're like, oh man, I don't like Leonardo. I'm like, how do you not like Leonardo DiCaprio? What did he do to you? The guy just keeps making good films. He's a really good actor, and he's been doing it since he was maybe 20. I think he was 24 when he made this. I mean, think about that. I think he's maybe a little bit older than that, because I think he's like 47, 48 now. This was 20 years ago.
He looks like such a kid in the movie.
Yeah, he has a young look to him, and he always has. And he's just been doing his thing for years now, going all the way back to What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I mean, the guy can just act. He can act his ass off, and I enjoyed most of his work, and that's what's good about it. But Catch Me If You Can, it was on Paramount Plus, and because I started watching it last weekend, and they must have taken it off. I don't know, but thankfully, Matt, you had it on your Vudu account, because I have it on DVD. Sure. But some of my DVDs are packed in boxes, so I would have had to dig it out somewhere, because I know I have this movie on DVD. But it's cool. It worked out. Watched it and enjoyed the heck out of it. Even it took me a couple of days to watch it. That's just how my movie going is sometimes. I watch 45 minutes here, 45 minutes there.
Yeah, eventually you finish it.
But I think this movie's a pretty solid. I give it a pretty solid A. I think it's a good film.
It's an A.
Tells a good story, and it's well done. And next week we have another movie of not directed by Spielberg, but directed by J.J. Abrams. And we kind of have there's always a lot of, if you've been listening to the show a long time, there's always a lot of little running jokes in the show, whether it be Mark not liking comedies or telling Tom Cruise jokes and stuff. And so we're going to do a Tom Cruise movie next week, we're going to start a mini trilogy of it's kind of came about by accident, but somewhat on purpose. So the next 3 movies we're doing are all the third parts of sagas or trilogies or what have you. So next week we're going to talk the J.J. Abrams directed Mission Impossible 3.
Who are you? You have a wife, girlfriend? Whoever she is, I'm going to find her. I'm going to hurt her. And then I'm going to kill you right in front of her.
we've covered the first two, which we strangely did out of order. We did 2, then we did 1. So we're getting back in order now with 3.
Now we're set.
Yeah, and the 7th one is coming out this summer, and this is a franchise that has consistently gotten better and better and better as the movies go along. And I have enjoyed the heck out of the Mission Impossible films. I really have. They've become one of my favorite franchises. Very much looking forward to Dead Reckoning this summer. That's high up on my list, along with Indiana Jones to go see. I can't wait to see it. But we're going to talk Mission Impossible 3 next week, starring Tom Cruise and the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman is the villain in this movie, and he's a heck of a good villain in it. Some good sequences in this film too, man, as always are in the Mission Impossible films. Mm-hmm. And these movies are on Paramount Plus. I know that since they're owned by Paramount. If you want to stream along with us at home, I mean, I've got them all on Blu-ray, but I know they're all on Paramount Plus too.
So I don't own them all yet, but one day I hope to.
I have them all on Blu-ray. I don't have them all digitally, but I do have them all. I do have copies of all of them. And but you've seen this one. You've seen them all though, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them all, and I think 3 is pretty good. It's definitely up there. I know the newer ones are highly favored, but I think the 3rd one is where it starts to get really good.
Yeah, the 3rd one is really good, and then 4th, it's the first one I think was written by McQuarrie but directed by Brad Bird, and then the 5th one is when he brings in McQuarrie to direct, and 5 and 6 were fantastic, and 7's looking to be just as fucking awesome when it comes out. So. So that's next week on the show, man. We will talk Mission Impossible 3. We're not going to reveal the other 2 movies in our little mini threequel trilogy yet, but we will as the next couple weeks go by. And so Mission Impossible 3 on next week's show. And until then, man, the rebelradiopodcast.com. That's where you can find all your Rebel Radio needs. As always, we're on all apps, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes. And if you listen to us on iTunes or on your iPhone or on the podcast app, man, take a couple minutes to leave us a 5-star review. We'd appreciate that. It helps us out with our algorithms and things like that. So it always helps. And until then, man, just continue to stay safe. Have a good week. And we thank you as always for listening. And this has been Mark.
This has been Matt.
And until next time, remember, as always, just go there and do it.
Go there and do it.
This is Ming Chen from AMC's Comic Book Man. I love Houston. I love podcasting. But what I really love is the Rebel Radio Podcast.